Hello there, Crista Hermance here, estate planning attorney, and we are going to be talking about the true cost of probate. This is something this whole week we're talking all about probate court, and this week specifically, and today it's just going to be about the cost. So we're going to give it just a moment for people to join us. And today we're talking about the true cost of probate. We're going to go through all of the different aspects of cost relating to what probate court is. Okay. I'm just pulling up the probate fee calculator. This is a free resource we actually have on our website because I do want to be able to refer to that if you have any questions about how much would it cost for this estate to go through probate court. And I think it's important for people to really understand if there isn't proper estate planning done, if there isn't a trust in place to be able to avoid probate, what is the cost going to be to actually have to put an estate through probate? So as we're talking about probate today, I'm going to be going through the different costs that are associated with it. So to start us off, so if you're watching this live or you're watching this in the replay, please put your questions, comments in the chat so I can answer those. And we are going to start with filing fees. So when you think about probate court, and again, I am an attorney in the state of California, and so the costs are going to be different in every state. California fees are based on statute, and it is based on the value of the estate. So we're not talking about attorney's fees at this point. We are only talking about the actual expenses that are used to go through probate court. Okay, so the first one is the court filing fees. So a filing fee, the cost for it is $453.71. That is paid at the beginning of a petition. It is when the first petition is filed for probate, and then it is going to have to be paid again at the end of the probate when the first and final petition is filed. And it's kind of like the first one and the second one within the course of a probate. And again, probate takes a really long time. If you've watched any of my videos from this week, it could take anywhere from 1 to 2 years to complete, sometimes more, depending on the county. And so first one done as soon as that first petition is filed, that $453. And then the second one when that final petition is done to try and get court approval to get the probate basically dispersed, right? It's completed at that point. Okay, so that's the first one. The next one is bond fees. So bond fees aren't an exact fee like the court filing fees, but what it's going to be is it's going to be based on the assets that are in the estate. And so depending on how many assets are in the estate or what that value is, you might see higher bond fees. I've seen bond fees anywhere from maybe $500 to upwards of $4,000. And this is something that has to be paid annually. And what I will say about bond fees is that bond fees are going to have to be paid in the beginning for the first year. The second year, when the bond fees are paid again, if the court case closes within any time, it will prorate the amount and the state will actually get a refund on those bond fees. One thing I will also mention about any of the costs associated with probate is that if you find that you are somebody who's in charge of the probate, somebody who is stepping in to be able to actually administer it, and maybe you don't have access to money from the estate at this point, if you are paying any of these fees yourself, you should keep receipts of everything so that you can get reimbursed from the estate when the estate is liquid, right? When the estate has access to money. Depending on if it's where it is in the probate process, you might have to wait to be reimbursed until the end. But again, this is why it's important to make sure that you are saving all of the receipts to get reimbursed. Okay. Next thing we're going to talk about, so we've talked about filing fees, we've talked about bond fees. Now you have probate referee fees. So probate referee fees are basically the probate court saying if there's assets that need to have an appraisal, the probate referee is going to complete those appraisals. And this is generally done on a value of the assets that they are appraising. And so the value of the assets are going to come in where, and the percentage is, let's say there's a $500,000 house that the probate referee is appraising, then it would be a 0.1% that they would be entitled to, which would be $500 plus mileage that they would get on their invoice to be paid through the estate. Okay, and so it all depends on the value of the asset of how much those probate fees are going to be. Okay, next fee, I want to go back to court fees because we already talked about the filing fees, but there's also a bunch of little fees that are going to get added in there. And so you'll find fees for certified letters. You'll find filing fees, just the cost of how much it cost us to actually complete those filings. We'll see fees on there for recording fees if anything needs to get recorded with the county. Anytime we need documents from the court, especially if they're certified, those are going to come at a higher cost. And those can generally range in anywhere from, $12 a filing, upwards of about $50 a filing, depending on what it is and what we're trying to get. So again, these are just, I'm trying to give you all the costs that I see that come in through probate court. Okay, the next one is publication. So again, if you watched the process video that I did on what probate court is, then it's important to understand that we have to do so many things as part of the probate. And one of those is publishing in a newspaper in the county where the person passed away, that they passed away, which gives notice to potential creditors. So the cost for publication is dependent upon a few things. One of which is the location of where the publication has to take place. In counties where it's just going to be a higher cost depending on that location. And so like LA County, Orange County are generally going to have a higher cost than maybe Santa Clarita or Ventura County. And I actually have a statement. And so I'm going to read off just some of the publication fees that I have for a case. This was in Pasadena. This fee is $601 for publication. I have one in Los Angeles. This one is $276.70. That was done in Los Angeles. I have one that was done in, it looks like Belmont. That's $659. And that is it on this statement. And so it all depends on the company you're using, the location where it is. And so it's important, especially if you're trying to do a probate on your own, to make sure you understand that there's different charges for different newspaper or publication outlets that can do it. Okay, so if you're just joining me, I'm talking about the cost of probate and what are really those fine numbers that are included in how much it costs to go from start to finish in a probate case. If you have any questions about cost, or maybe you want to know how much your estate would cost to go through probate, because we are going to get to those statutory fees here in just a moment. Just looking to see if there's any other things from a cost perspective that I wanted to talk about. Okay. One of the big things to think about when it comes to cost is, one, does the estate have access to be able to pay these costs up front, right? So if there's, like for us as a law firm, we would take a retainer payment. Generally, it's about $2,500 to help us cover all of these costs that are going to be paid over the course of a probate. And so if the estate doesn't have access to this money, to this cash to be able to pay it, then it's generally somebody coming forward, making those payments ahead of time, and then getting reimbursed through the estate. A big thing to consider of an estate having to go through probate is the money is basically, the assets are frozen at this point, right? They can't be distributed to somebody that should be inheriting as an heir, or somebody that's named in a will, or somebody that relies on the person that died to be able to support them, right? They may not have access to that money anymore. And so that's a really big thing. And a reason to try and avoid having to go through probate is by having an estate plan, right? Having a trust in place. These are things that we do. If you find yourself in need, and again, are in California, please put trust in the comments, and we can send you a link to schedule a free phone consultation for getting an estate plan in place. If you find that you have somebody that has passed away and you need help going through a probate court, please put probate in comments or send us a message, and we will schedule a free phone consultation for you to talk about what those next steps are for you to go through probate court. Okay, so let's talk about the statutory fees. And this is where it really gets high in cost, because the fees that I've talked about now are probably somewhere in the range of $2,000 to maybe $5,000. And this is based on an estate that's probably around maybe $1.5 million. Because if you think about the value of the home, right, that's generally what's going to drive up the cost of probate so much, is because it's the value of the home, what it would sell for, not how much equity is in the house. Okay, so let's say that there was a home worth $800,000, and we're just going to say it is just the home having to go through probate. Okay, the statutory fees for an $800,000 home is $38,000. Okay, $38,000. Of that, $19,000 of it are attorney's fees, and the other $19,000 are money that is paid to the personal representative for being in charge of putting the estate through probate. Okay, it is based on statute by the value of the estate. This money is paid at the end. So when we file that final petition, we ask the court for permission to complete the estate and to make all the distributions to pay the bills. And that's when those statutory fees are going to be due to the personal representative and to the attorney. $800,000 is just an example, and that doesn't include the $2,000 to $5,000 that I had already talked about in those bond fees, publication fees, petition filing fees, right? All of those other fees that I had talked about. This is in addition to that. So an $800,000 estate, you're looking upwards of around $42,000, $43,000 in fees to put that estate through probate. So if you go up in value, and let's say that there is, thank you. I hope you are finding value in this information, because I think a lot of times the cost of going through probate is not clear. And once people understand it, they want to try and avoid going through probate by having an estate plan in place, by having a trust. But for those that are unable to plan ahead because it just wasn't done and the families are in the middle of it now, it's hopefully a good indicator as to what those fees are going to be. Because these fees are very high for the estates having to go through probate, what we're finding is a lot of families can't actually afford them. And so they're having to sell homes to be able to pay the fees associated with one of their loved ones passing away, which is unfortunate. Okay, so let's say that there is an estate worth $1.5 million. And the reason I say 1.5 is, let's just say that it's made up of a primary residence and a rental property, right? And so, you're looking at an $800,000 home and maybe $700,000 as a rental property, the fair market value, not the equity in the house. So a $1.5 million estate would be $56,000 in statutory fees. $56,000 for $1.5 million. In addition to that $56,000, you have all those other fees I talked about, right? And with a $1.5 million estate, let's say it's about $5,000 in filing fees. Bond fees are probably going to be a little bit higher, publication fees. You're looking at over $60,000 for a $1.5 million estate to go through probate court. Okay, if you have any questions, please make sure to put those in the chat. If you need help with estate planning, right? If you need help where somebody has passed away and you're not really sure next steps, maybe it needs to go through probate, or maybe they had a trust and maybe it's trust administration. please send us a message and we can get that free consultation scheduled. Maybe you are a beneficiary and you're not getting the right information, you're not getting support, or maybe somebody's refusing to provide you that information. Those are also things that we help clients with in supporting their rights as a beneficiary or an heir to be able to have the information that's going on and to be able to know, are they being taken advantage of? Or maybe it's just because it's a really long process and sometimes it just takes a while. But those are things that you should absolutely look into if you feel like things are not being done fairly for you. So thank you so much for joining me today. And again, if you are watching this in the replay, please put your questions in the chat and I will get to it in the next live video that we do. And if you have not yet signed up, I am doing a full probate webinar on this Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So please make sure to register for that live webinar that I'm doing on probate, and I will see you there.